Hello, viewer. You don't know me, but I know you. You have lived the majority of your life enslaved by a screen. Movies, video games, and TV have all consumed your life. You only clicked on this video because it was a review about a movie, a video about a video. You could call yourself a connoisseur, but I call you a prisoner. Since you are such a fan of digital media, let's see how devoted you really are. I want to play a game. The device in front of you has an interface for the video you are watching. You have until this timer counts down to subscribe to Melody Ever After. After that timer runs up, the movie review will begin, and you will probably forget to do it after. Subscribe to me and live, or don't, and die. Eventually. I don't know when. I'm not affiliated with that. The choice is yours.
Hey everyone, Melody Ever After here. We're gonna get straight into it today. I'm doing a movie review on the newest movie in the Saw movie franchise known as Saw X. I saw it recently and I just wanted to give my thoughts and opinions because it really was one of my favorite movies that I've seen all year, and I'm not kidding, I'm not joking, I'm gonna explain why. This video does contain lots of spoilers, as well as discussion of saw traps. If you don't know what saw traps are, pause the video, Google a saw trap. Also, why are you here? Anyway, and then come back and decide if it's something you want to watch or not. Moving on. Thanks for listening to my little warning. I want to start with a big, fat, ugly complaint. Who is in charge of making the trailer for this movie? I want to start by saying that I watched Saw X, or Saw 10, whatever you want to call it, without watching the trailer. Okay, I had not seen the trailer. I work at a movie theater. I get information about what all the movies are about. And I also am just a geek, and I'm also familiar with the Saw franchise. So I didn't feel like I needed to watch the trailer. I heard that it took place between the first and second movies, a few weeks after the first movie took place, and that's all I needed to know. I didn't need to know anything else. As it turns out, the worst thing about the movie was the trailer. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch the movie, but don't watch the trailer. If you've already seen the trailer, I'm sorry, you're just SOL, because it really ruins an experience. Saw 10 did an excellent job of building up a really good storyline and building up the suspense behind it. John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, is diagnosed with terminal cancer and given just a few months to live. He is trying to come to terms with his death because he hasn't finished doing all of his maniac saw traps when he comes across an old friend who he was in remission therapy with, apparently named Henry Kessler. Henry Kessler is doing great and looks super healthy, and John's like, "How did you get so healthy? I thought you were dying too." Henry Kessler was like, no. He pulls up his shirt and he shows this giant gnarly scar, and he's like, "I went under the table for a medical procedure that's not yet approved by medical boards, and it was really expensive and I had to go out of the country, but it was totally worth it because now I have a second shot at life." And John Kramer's like, "Can you hook me up?" The facility that John Kramer goes to has a main doctor named Dr. Cecilia, and Dr. Cecilia tells him that this facility is not approved by standardized medical boards because Big Pharma would lose money if cancer was cured. So she's saying that because they have the cure to cancer, that Big Pharma would lose so much money that the medical boards won't approve them, and it's illegal to do this procedure because it would put so many pharmacies who are responsible for making medications out of business. Which I do kind of think stuff like that happens, but this is an extreme. It's a good plot for a movie. It really is. So John goes to Mexico to do this groundbreaking top secret procedure at a top secret facility. He meets with the staff, with the nurses, with the surgeons, and with Dr. Cecilia. He pays them the money and he gets the procedure done. They tell him not to take off the bandages for a few weeks, and he's like, "Cool beans." So a few weeks later, he finds the facility somewhere in Mexico, and he's wanting to bring them a gift as a thank you for saving his life and doing this groundbreaking, illegal, super secret procedure. But when he gets to the facility in Mexico, the entire place is run down, ransacked, looks like it's been rummaged around in. And he goes to the procedure room like, "What's happening? What happened here?" I personally thought that Big Pharma got them. I thought that Big Pharma came and took all of the people out, like the CIA came and took all these people out because it was a big conspiracy, which would have been a cool plot. But John Kramer goes to the operating room where he once had his brain you know, opened up. He watches his own surgery video back, and he watches the video and he sees that they really aren't taking anything out. They're just kind of poking and prodding around in there and making it seem like they're doing this procedure. And he's like, wait a minute, they didn't do anything? I paid all that money and they didn't do anything? So he takes his bandages off, and the scar is like not even visible, if there even is one. It's like teeny tiny. So he realizes that, oh, yep, I just got scammed. And he is heartbroken. It really is a gut-wrenching scene watching him realize that he doesn't have long to live. He still has cancer. Any way that he has felt better must have been just power of suggestion. And then he starts to realize that these people are conning victims of cancer at their most vulnerable. They are conning these people and defrauding these people in their most fragile states. And this does not set well with Saw, Jigsaw, John Kramer. Because if you've ever seen a Saw movie, you know that John Kramer's whole motive behind putting people in these barbaric traps is in the name of social justice. I had not seen the trailer, so I immediately hopped on the conspiracy train. Whoop whoop! Conspiracy chain, leaving the station. Because I thought that the CIA had taken these people out because they said, oh, you know, Big Pharma's always on our back. We always gotta stay one step ahead. I thought that the CIA or Big Pharma killed all these people who saved John Kramer's life, which is how he survived long enough to be in the next few movies, and John Kramer was gonna track down the government or Big Pharma or whatever and put them in saw traps. And I was like, yes! Yeah, that's cool. But what I didn't realize is that the premise that the cancer treatment facility he goes to is a con, it's a scam, is in the trailer. Why did they spend so much time working this plot up like it was gonna be a big twist? Like, you really trusted these doctors. I did. I watched the movie. I really trusted these doctors. I trusted this medical team. I thought they were good people, good medically certified people. And then it kind of felt like a betrayal when I realized that they were just a scam to get people's money. And it is the perfect crime because, you know, these people don't have very long to live. They take all of their money and then they die, so there's no alibi. But I don't understand why they put all that in the trailer, because it really felt like a twist to me. So my friend hadn't seen the trailer either, who I went with, and when they said, oh, it didn't happen, and you see John take off his bandages and there's no scar, we looked at each other like, what? But apparently we were the only people in the auditorium that day who were shocked, because that's in the trailer. Why would you work up an entire plot to a twist and then announce the twist in the trailer? I get that they wanted to make clear who John was torturing, but I think it would have been better just to put something vague like, John Kramer is out for revenge regarding his personal life, and this time his personal life, it's personal. I just am really frustrated that that was announced in the trailer. But imagine my disappointment when I come home to my loving fiance to explain the plot of the Saw movie I just saw, and I'm like, yeah, so he goes through all this trouble and you find out that the doctors that are doing the procedure, it's all a scam. They're scamming people. And my fiance is like, uh-huh, yeah, I saw that in the trailer. On to the next part of the movie that I really like. I am no Kramer sympathizer. One thing about me is I do not sympathize with Kramer. John Kramer, not Kramer from Seinfeld. I think torturing people is no bueno. I'm very anti-torture. I just want that to be known. But Dr. Cecilia is like the worst person in the world, and she is one of the most infuriating characters I've ever met, and she totally had it coming. Like, yes, she deserved to be tortured. In this one instance, I will say that. She was this awful person. She was defrauding these cancer patients, taking money from what would have been their family's funds after they passed on, and it's just a really nasty situation. And I think that you kind of get some insight into, yeah, okay, maybe I understand why Jigsaw's doing this. I'm not saying I'm for it, but I can at least see where he's coming from. I see the idea behind it. I kind of understand why he's doing this now. It doesn't just seem like he has some random infatuation with life and people disrespecting life. This Saw movie specifically has so much more of a fleshed out plot than the previous Saw movies did, and I think that this movie also challenges the audience's morality. I think that you watch this movie and you're like, oh yeah, kill her! Kill Dr. Cecilia, she ruined so many innocent people's lives. I think that that's the point. It's kind of this who is the monster moment, and you realize that by being excited that she's going to get her evens, it's contributing to this problem, and you really have to kind of have this like internal moment of reflection. It challenges the ideas of morality much more than any previous Saw movie, and I think that they did that in a very clever way. I was very much excited about that. We have John Kramer, who in his mind is not only doing justice for himself, but also for the 32 people who were scammed by Dr. Cecilia. Then we have Amanda, who we haven't talked about yet. A little refresher, Amanda is the only survivor, I believe, of Saw 1. She survived the reverse bear trap, and she was this drug addict that John stalked and said that she didn't respect her own life, put her in this bear trap, and made her do this Saw challenge, and she survived. But what's interesting about Amanda is that she views John as this parental figure who saved her life, because she would have killed herself doing drugs if John wouldn't have woken her up. So Amanda is now under John Kramer, aka Jigsaw's wing, and she is helping him carry out the activities that he's too fragile to do. She is officially now a part of the Jigsaw franchise. Saw 10 also explores John and Amanda's relationship. Amanda views Kramer as a friend, as a confidant, as a father, but there's almost this uncomfortable romantic / sexual tension between them. Like, she's like, I can't do this without you. And the entire time, my friend and I are looking at each other like, loco. Because the vibes were weird. But I really do think that this is the best Saw movie to give you insight to as why Amanda joined Jigsaw and why Amanda loves Kramer so much. This movie makes Amanda's character development throughout the Saw series very linear and explains a lot about why she takes the actions that she does in later movies as the treachery, I can't say that word, villain of the series. Because Amanda was an addict, to her, John saved her. He didn't almost kill her, he prevented her from killing herself. I also want to note that this is not sane person behavior. Amanda is Delulu with a capital Lulu. She's crazy. This is not normal, typical person behavior. But that aside, in this movie, Amanda is faced with the task of carrying out a Saw trap challenge for a Saw victim who was on the medical team, who wasn't actually a nurse, but was actually a drug addict that was just doing this to get more drug money. Now, she sees herself in this victim. The victim's name is Gabriella, and she hesitates to put Gabriella in the Saw trap. And John Kramer's like, she had her choice, just like you had your choice. You need to do it. And Amanda's like, you're right. I do need to torture this girl. Thanks, John. She did connect with Gabriella, though, and she did hesitate to put her in the Saw trap. Gabriella's Saw trap was... You can skip forward if you'd like. Gabriella's Saw trap was being extended by one wrist and one leg in shackles and being suspended from the ceiling in front of a giant x-ray gun that slowly burned her, and she had to use a giant hammer to crack the bones in her hand and in her foot to escape the shackles and fall to the ground before the x-ray burned her alive, pretty much. So it wasn't the most gruesome Saw trap by far. It was pretty, I wouldn't say mild, but it was not... No, it wasn't gaggy Cue the villain. I think Dr. Cecilia not only challenges John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, but she also challenges Amanda, which changes Amanda's course of view on this whole situation as well, because Gabriella does escape her trap, and Amanda is almost like, whew, sigh of relief, because she has hope for Gabriella just like she has hope for herself. So Gabriella is laying on the ground, completely radiated, and John and Amanda are like, we need to get this woman to the hospital. Dr. Cecilia is able to overtake the situation by having her lover pretend to be an ex-patient of the facility, and he sneaks into their facility and holds them at gunpoint. So now Jigsaw's getting jigsawed, and Kramer and Amanda are at gunpoint by Dr. Cecilia and her boyfriend, who are trying to get the money back from all of these procedures that they did, and they're holding them hostage. And John and Amanda are like, we need to get that woman to the hospital. She won her game fair and square, and she has injuries she has sustained. She needs to go get medical attention. And Cecilia's like, oh my god, no. I'm so thankful you did this, John. I love this. I love that you're Jigsaw, because guess what? All these goons I had who were doing this procedure stuff with me were just loose ends I was gonna kill anyway. So you really saved me some time. Thank you, Jigsaw. And they're all like, how dare you? So they're very mad about this because they believe in social justice, and Dr. Cecilia just apparently likes to kill people and get money. So she's literally infuriating. I hate her. It makes her an amazing villain, though. It makes her this like really hateable villain, and that also brings in the question of morality, whether she deserves getting her evens or not. So Dr. Cecilia goes over and steps on Gabriella and kills her, and this sends Amanda into a spiral. She is losing her mind. She goes bazonkers because she's heartbroken that this girl who she saw herself in also won her saw trap, and she believed that there was hope that she would survive and go on to live a good life just like Amanda is, and Dr. Cecilia killed her for literally no reason. It kind of like it begs the question, is this why Amanda went on to be a villain of the Saw franchise? Is it because she created these inescapable traps, because after things like this happening, did she kind of just think it was all pointless and that everyone deserved to die? You know, if Gabriella died, she survived her saw trap but died anyway, what's the point? So it kind of does fill in some plot holes when you think about Amanda's course of action throughout the series. When she saw so much of herself in Gabriella, I think when she saw Dr. Cecilia kill Gabriella, she just kind of thought that her and John's efforts to get these people to atone had been completely pointless at this point. And Dr. Cecilia doesn't stop there. She's the worst villain ever. She forces John to get into a saw trap. So Saw gets sawed. And she's like, okay, this saw trap requires 2 people. Who am I gonna do? Eeny, meeny, miny. Oh yeah, the groundskeeper's 10-year-old son who lives upstairs. Yeah, I'm just gonna go get him. Luckily, this saw trap wasn't 100% lethal. It was the bloodboarding trap, where it was like the seesaw, and the person who was strapped to it, who was lower, got waterboarded with blood. It was very gory. Dr. Cecilia abducts this like 10-ish-year-old child and forces him to participate in the saw trap just because she knows that John Kramer's entire purpose behind creating saw traps is for social justice, and to make him get into a saw trap with an innocent person is like really, really bothering him. Like, he's like, no, you can't do this. You see like this visible kind of discomfort. And the actor who plays John Kramer, Tobin Bell, the actor who plays Jigsaw, Tobin Bell, really sells this. He's very disturbed by the idea of getting into a saw trap with a child, because that's not really in his MO. Cecilia does this as like the ultimate FU to John Kramer, and she puts him in the saw trap with this child, and she and her lover like force John that she's like, where's the money? And John's getting bloodboarded because he told the little boy not to pull his lever because he didn't want the little boy to get bloodboarded. And the little boy pulls his lever anyway and gets bloodboarded long enough for John to be like, oh, it's in the attic, it's in the upstairs. And they're like, we got you now. So her and her boyfriend run upstairs and they grab the money bag, what they think is the money bag, off the wall. It's a failsafe and it stops the seesaw. I don't think he expected the 10-year-old to be involved in this, but he did expect to be put in the trap. Like, he was prepared because he made it a failsafe. And when they pull the money bag down, it's empty except for these bank statements, and she's forced to look at all the times that she's taken money from people, and she's like, where's the money? The doors lock in the upstairs area, and John, who's like down below looking through the window, is like, oh yeah, the room is filling with gas, and if you don't have oxygen in your blood, then your skin's gonna burn. And also, there's only one porthole, so good luck fighting, you two. Dr. Cecilia and her boyfriend are forced to fight to the death to get access to the window. And that's pretty much the end of that. That's a summary of the plot. I only explained so much of it because I really do think, like I said, this movie challenges the ideas of morality much more than the initial Saw movies and the previous Saw movies, especially the later ones. I was really afraid when I went into this movie that it was just going to be all gore, all saw traps, you know, crazier, bigger, bloodier than ever, because in the past, that's what they've done. They just have to keep adding more shock factor to retain the attention of their audience, and I was afraid that with this being the 10th one, it was just going to be absurd. I was surprised we actually got a lot more storyline than we did, I think, Saw traps. It was not as violent. I mean, that bloodboarding thing was very gory. It was a very gory movie, but as for violence, it was not as violent as some of the Saw movies. I say it was just as violent as the first Saw movie. I think it was a good balance of storyline and action, not to mention that the violence that took place in this movie was character driven. So I think a lot of the things that you see in this movie that are like a little bit squirmy are well explained and they make a lot of sense. It was like the writers did a really good job on this movie compared to a lot of the other Saw films. But I do want to say, the storyline would have been a million times better if people didn't know that it was a scam the whole time. Because watching it from that perspective, like I did, my jaw dropped and I immediately wanted these people to get sawed. As for the traps, I will try not to talk about them too much because I don't want to have to show pictures of any of this stuff. And I also don't want to spoil it too much. I've already spoiled the plot, and I know a lot of people like to watch them for the traps, so I'm not going to spoil the traps if you're a horror, gore type person. But what I will say is that I watched a lot of behind the scenes stuff about these traps and how they created them and how they got the ideas for them, and they pay a lot of homage to the original traps in the first Saw movie, which I really like, considering that this movie takes place in the early days of Saw, like a few weeks after the first movie ended. And I think that's really important, you know, seeing them and looking at them and thinking, okay, that's something that Amanda could have built, or okay, that's something that John could have helped Amanda build, or whatever. Like, they were believable traps. They weren't like super out of pocket crazy. There weren't a lot of plot holes. There were a couple of things that I didn't like, though. The first being that when Kramer went to Mexico, it had that classic yellow "I've arrived in Mexico" American movie filter on it, where everything's yellow and they've got like some vaguely tribal music with like the sound of cicadas and rattlesnakes in the background. Slap some cicadas and rattlesnakes and a yellow filter on anywhere and it could be Mexico, okay? Why do we do this in movies? I don't understand. I'm actually going to Mexico in 2024, so I will report back and let you know if it's ambiently ochre there. My money's on no. Again, I am a big movie geek, so I did some behind-the-scene research on this, and apparently the cinematographer on set chose these very violent blue filters and very violent yellow filters to reflect how the original Saw movie looked, which I guess I just forgot how blue and yellow it was. A lot of movies apparently were really blue and yellow in the 2000s, and I've just kind of erased that from my memory. Given that the first Saw movie was filmed in the day and age of our Lord and Savior Evanescence, heavily filtered horror was extremely common, and I've just totally disregarded that, so Fair enough, I guess. So this was done intentionally, so I'll let it slide, but I do think it's a huge cliche just to put yellow over a yellow filter over Mexico. I do think that is a huge movie cliche, and it does get under my skin a little bit. Recently in 2023, we have had a huge boom of horror movies, from cult classics to niche movies to even some innovative new horror films. We've had Terrifier 2 and the new Exorcist movie, which I'm going to do a review on, as well as movies like Talk to Me. And with horror being my favorite genre ever, I try to watch a lot of these movies, even if I don't think they're going to be my cup of tea, because I try to see as many as I can to compare them. I'm going to say, even though it was very, very gory, Saw 10 was something that I really enjoyed. I typically don't enjoy gory films, but its storyline was really good, and my biggest complaint is that they put that twist in the trailer. Why would you waste such a good opportunity? The character-driven traps, the character-driven events, the storyline, the debate of morality, these things really gave it a four-dimensional kind of plot, and it was entertaining from start to finish. Some people say it was slow in the beginning. I tend to just think that they really like gore and they were upset that there was a lot of storyline. Me personally though, I was pleasantly surprised by that. So don't let the reviews saying that it's slow in the beginning stop you, especially if you haven't seen that trailer. Well, I guess it's ruined for you now, but I think that it's a great movie, and if you know someone who hasn't seen the trailer, hasn't seen it, maybe show it to them, because that storyline was really good. And I'm not the only one with it. A lot of people who watched it in the theater really like it. I get a lot of good feedback from it at work, as well as online. A lot of people are saying that this is the best Saw movie yet, or that this movie is just as good as the first one, or it's only second to the first one. And I think when you have a franchise that has over 10 movies in it, that says a lot. It's got an 80% critic score and a 90% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes as of today, so I think that it's doing great, and I'm not the only one who thought it was really good. Just like Mad Heidi, but a lot more realistic and disturbing. It is a hard watch, but a good watch. If you like horror and you've got a strong stomach, I do recommend you give it a try. I really do. I thought it was great. And if you have seen it and you thought it was just okay, try to imagine it from the perspective of someone who hadn't seen the trailer. Imagine that jaw-dropping betrayal when you find out that the facility wasn't even real. I really do think that gut-wrenching shock of realizing that there are solely evil people in the world who are not only just like John Kramer evil, where they want revenge and they think that they need to atone for their sins, but evil people who don't care about people's good intentions. They just want to kill them and take their money. I give Saw 10 a 9 out of 10 for what it is. Now, typically I don't like giving gory movies like amazing scores in my personal book, but for what it was trying to do and what it was trying to be, it really hit the nail right on the head. I give it a 9 out of 10, and I don't just hand out 9 out of 10s. I like this more than any movie I've seen in the theater recently within the past 6 months. So for a Saw movie especially, it was amazing. If you like this video and you want to see some more movie reviews, please go ahead and give me a subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Make sure to hit that notification bell and like this video. It really helps my channel out a lot. Also, I haven't mentioned in a while, but don't forget I do have a very dry Discord. So if you want to make a friend, you want to talk or chat, or if you got opinions about this that you don't want to put in the comments and you'd rather talk to somebody, go check out my Discord. I'd be happy to have you over there. I'm not super active in it, but maybe I'd really like to turn that around. I'd really like for that to get poppin'. You've been watching Melody Ever After. Until next time.